So I'm spending 150 days in Terraria's Calamity mod, which shouldn't be too bad, except that there's one problem. I'm a builder. Meaning that my combat abilities can sometimes be a little bit limited. Oh, and to make this even more fun, I'll be doing this in death mode. Needless to say, this should be pretty interesting, so let's continue our journey, shall we? It's day 12 and we are back on our mission, and things are actually looking pretty good so far, all things considered. We found several NPCs, beaten a few vanilla bosses like King Slime, and the Eye of Cthulhu, and even beaten a few Calamity bosses like the Desert Scourge and the Giant Clam. So what better way to celebrate some of our successes and maybe start off this next part of our journey with a quick little building session to get warmed up for the trials and tribulations that lay ahead. I mean, I did mention I am a builder, right? So let's get to it. Of course, as seems to happen every time I start building in this playthrough or come anywhere near completion of a build project, trouble is never very far away. This time in the form of slimes which began raining from the sky. Like, seriously, I've been in game for just a few minutes and I already gotta deal with this? Anyways, while I wasn't sure if this was going to be an omen of sorts for things to come, I certainly wasn't going to just sit here and let these slimy invaders do as they please. It was time to protect my new home.
Sweet, we did it.
With my defense successful and my build in a relatively more stable place, I decided to quickly pop over to the Crimson, break a few of these Crimson Hearts, and actually realized very quickly that I could head back home and make a really quick upgrade for my rogue class. This was the Victide set. It's not that this set is mind-blowing, it's early game still guys, but it's a pretty nice little set if you're a rogue, so if you've never had an opportunity to try this or use it, highly recommend you give this one a shot. Now that I'm looking fresh in my new armor, it's time to make some more progress in this actual playthrough, fighting the next boss, and that is going to be Crabulon, a big infested looking crab thing. Yeah, this guy right here. And before I find him, I need to actually first find where he lives, and that is going to be in the mushroom biome. So off I went exploring once again. Now I don't know about you, but normally when I need a specific biome or a specific item, it often eludes me. Luckily for once, I was actually able to find the biome quite quickly. Then I did a little bit of exploring in the biome to find a slightly more open area that I thought would be a better place to actually summon him, and then used this weird looking mushroom thing and actually decided to summon our moldy friend and got to work turning him into some low grade crab rangoon. With a few extra hits and the final blow landing, the crab is now defeated. And after defeating him, I decided I'd take my spoils of war back home, only to once again be interrupted by yet another event. This time I was greeted by a Goblin Invasion. And much like the invasion of King Slime, there is no room for intruders in my kingdom, so I took a firm hold of my Desert Scourge and let it do all the talking. Now with the intruders defeated, I was planning to head out exploring again, but then realized that I had yet another viable armor upgrade available to me, and I figured, why not get something as trivial as a simple armor upgrade? I mean, I just upgraded to Victide, couldn't be that hard, right? Of course, as you know, nothing is ever that simple, so after looking up these materials and what they were, I realized that I had to go explore a new area, an area I knew was going to be dangerous. I had to make my way to the Sulphurous Seas. Now, if you don't know, the Sulphurous Sea is a new or added biome in Calamity, and I was not familiar with it at all, but I knew I had to head to the ocean to find it, so off I went.
2 hours later.
And once I got there, well, I spent a lot of time fighting as well as exploring the surface of this area, but honestly, other than some annoying enemies, I didn't really find anything all that special. But I didn't really know what else to do, so I kept fighting for a few more minutes, and luckily the fighting actually began to pay off, and I got all the necessary materials I needed for my new and improved armor. Now, this set was actually pretty perfect for my rogue class. With more defense, 65 extra health, and the ability to inflict poison, this new armor is a step in the right direction. And that direction is going to put me right in front of our next objective, the Brain of Cthulhu. Now, luckily this was going to be a pretty quick summon, because as you recall, I already destroyed 2 hearts a little bit earlier, and just need to drop a bomb on 1 more and then get this fight underway. Now, I wasn't exactly sure how this fight would go, but honestly, this wasn't a particularly challenging fight. Now, that's not to say that it was a particularly clean or easy fight either, but let's just say there were a few hiccups. I'm still a builder after all. But eventually, I managed to get in a good rhythm.
More passion, more passion, more passion, more energy, more footwork, more footwork.
And landed the final blow, and the brain was defeated. When I noticed something at this exact moment. I noticed this strange lesion growing out of the ground and decided to give it a few love taps and destroy it. Which in hindsight is something I shouldn't have done and was certainly something I was going to regret. Yeah, this thing doesn't drop materials like I thought it did. Nope. Instead, it spawns another Calamity boss, the Perforator. And I was clearly not ready to take this fight on. No potions, a very undersized arena, and no idea what to expect. Truly a winning trifecta if ever there was one. I mean, he summons this worm minion that I was not expecting, so unsurprisingly, I got my ass handed to me pretty quickly. And as I respawned back home, I realized that I was going to need to be a bit more prepared for that encounter, and a good place to start was going to be by revisiting Crabulon for a very specific weapon that I was informed would be quite strong. Now, I had absolutely no idea what this weapon was or what it did, but I was informed by my viewers that it would be good. So, I took them at their word and, well, made my way back to the mushroom biome. Once I got there, I spawned in Crabulon and then defeated him once again, grabbed my loot, and to no one's surprise, there was no weapon. So I spawned him in and killed him again, and again, and again, and again, and an innumerable number of times until finally, the micro-root was all mine. And I'm not gonna lie, this thing is pretty sick. I mean, look how fast this thing is. With the newfound power of this weapon going directly to my head, it was time to get my revenge on the Perforator. But I got this sneaking suspicion that this weapon alone wasn't actually going to be enough. I needed something extra, something that could potentially guarantee my victory, and something that was really, really simple. I need a bigger arena. And listen, I totally understand that this is a very simple thing to do, but an appropriately sized arena can be the difference between life and death. So I made my way back to the Crimson and put my dynamite to work clearing out a larger space for me to be able to make the most of this fight. Now, clearing out an area is all well and good, but to actually start this fight, I actually had to find another cyst. And unsurprisingly, like everything else in this run, it actually took a lot longer than it should have. So after a few minutes of searching, I found another cyst, took it out, and introduced the Perforator to my properly sized arena and my new little friend. Now again, I'm not really familiar with this boss, so as the fight got underway and I got used to the boss's mechanics, I noticed that this weapon, which felt great due to the insane speed, had one very obvious trade-off. All that speed meant that I wasn't doing all that much damage. So at this point, I couldn't tell if I was not using the weapon correctly or my viewers had lied to me, both a possibility, but I wasn't too worried because while the weapon didn't perform exactly how I wanted, the real winner here was my overconfidence and this larger arena. Two very powerful tools that would certainly carry me to victory. And for once, my overconfidence was rewarded. The final blow landed, and my revenge against the Perforator was complete. And I feel good about this. I mean, taking out a boss that you've never fought is always a pretty nice feeling, but at this point, I was exhausted, and with my spoils in hand, I headed home to check out some new loot and finally bring this part of my adventure to an end. Now, I know you may be thinking that we didn't accomplish all that much in a short amount of time, but in reality, my lack of knowledge of this new world, and frankly, my lack of skill, meant that I was already closing in on 25 days in this adventure, and we had so much left to do. I knew there were bigger and more dangerous challenges ahead, and I knew I had to be ready. But for now, my adventure had come to an end. Until the next time.